Good morning, class. Last live lesson, we did a beautiful watercolor landscape. And today we're gonna do a different watercolor landscape. We're gonna keep building on our skills and work on some wet on wet and wet on dry techniques. So the first thing I'm gonna do is wet my paints. This is just a water sprayer. And you can see I already got some watercolor paper, taped it down, and you might be able to see I just sketched out the outline of the mountains I want to put in so that I know how far down to go with my sky. So first thing we're going to do is just apply some water. And I've got my little water glass here. I'm going to apply some water to the paper and go ahead and get it nice and wet. So you just want it to have a shine. You don't want it to be soaking wet. We don't want it to tear the paper up. We just want to put in a nice shine so that the watercolor can soak in and blend into our paper. And then along this mountain line, I'm just gonna line it so that I don't have water leaking down. And this mountain line is just a guide for me. So we could even change our minds and decide not to do a mountain at the bottom. We might just do a full sky. The world is your oyster. When you're doing art, you get to make all the choices. So now our sky is nice and wet and our mountains are still dry. So I'm going to grab a bit of blue and I'm just bringing some of it into my palette so I can add it to some dark blue. And I just want to make it a little bit darker down here at the bottom. I might even add a little bit of purple to it. Give it some depth. There we go. That's much better for a night sky. Okay. And we'll just start right here at the top. And we're gonna do several layers of this, so it doesn't have to be perfect. It's gonna be blended with other colors. And I'm just gonna try and bring it all the way down. And I don't know if I mixed enough, so just mix a little bit more. A little bit of purple, a little bit of light blue. The beauty of the sky, whether it's day or night, is that it's always gonna have different shades in it, lots of different colors. So if you find yourself mixing paint and you want to make sure it's exactly the same, then it won't look like the sky. We don't want the sky to have a flat color. We want the sky to have darkness and lightness in it. And I'm just going to line my mountains down here. It's really the only part I really have to pay attention to what I'm doing, keeping my lines in. All right, so I'm just gonna fill in some spots where there's some white or lighter colors, and we'll let that dry for a moment. And then we're gonna come back in and I'm gonna take some more of this dark purple and I'm gonna add a little bit of the dark blue. And then I'm gonna add some black. We're gonna make it really nice and dark for our sky. Okay, kind of murky gray. Get a little bit more purple in there. So if you're new to my art classes, purple is my favorite color. So I love purple. And I try to incorporate a little bit of purple into all my art because you want to enjoy your art, and I really enjoy purple. So I try and use purple as much as I can. So I'm going to go through here and I'm just going to do another wet layer on top. So any lines you had that were driving you crazy, they'll just kind of go out into the distance. And then I'm going to start adding our dark color here at the top. And suddenly it's night. We're just going to keep working it down. And we don't need to go all the way down with it. We can leave just kind of a lighter purple here at the bottom. But we don't want to have just a line. So we want to bring in some water here. We don't want to have a straight line of where the colors are ending. So I'm actually going to bring it down to the mountain so I don't have that line. And then we'll just darken it up along the top. The nice thing about doing multiple layers of color is that you will get more and more texture as you go. And then you'll have these spots where you can see through the color into the lighter color beneath. And it just gives you the illusion of a sky. Because there's wind, there's even clouds at night, and we want to make sure we have all of that illusion in there. Okay, all right. So now I'm gonna do some more black in here. And I'm just gonna start on this mountain. Actually, I'll do this big one first. And I'm doing it on my dry paper because I don't want it to bleed, okay? So I'm gonna go right onto the dry paper so I don't have any bleeding and it won't join up with my purple. And we've got this kind of dark gray and it has a bit of a purple hue to it. And this is our mountain. That's kind of far away. So the far away mountains are going to be darker than the close-up mountains. So I'm going to just keep on bringing some darkness here. And this is just straight black. There's no other colors mixed. I'm grabbing it right off of my palette with a wet brush. And I'm just painting this mountain. It's such a neat difference with watercolors when you have wet on dry. My paint's starting to dry up a little bit here. And then when you have the watery wet on wet, where it blends together so beautifully, and then when you have the wet on dry, it's really just like acrylic paint. It goes exactly where you wanted it to go. And then I'm just gonna bump out this a little bit extra so that it really feels like a rugged mountain here. Nice, that looks great. Okay. And while we wait for the sky to dry a little bit, I'm gonna add in basically a lot of purple. And a little bit of black. So basically we're going to do a dark purple. And I'm just waiting for these edges to dry. And I'll do a little bit of a lighter mountain over here. Because this is in front. And I'm just going to go right along this edge, carefully coaxing the paint where I want it to go. Okay, and we can do several layers of this and make it as dark as we want. Right along the edge here. And again, I'm on dry paper here. So if you want more of a watercolor texture on this mountain, you can do wet on wet. And then I'm going to do another layer of this dark purple and really get it nice and deep and dark. And you just want to fill in these spots where it's white. So we've got our mountain really far away back here in the back, and then we've got our mountain here in the front. So when I go back over it again, I'm going to add just a little more black, and I need to re-wet my palette real quick. Oh, that's not it. And that just helps your brush pick up a little bit better. So we've got this dark. I want to make sure it's got a purple hue. I don't want it to be all the way black. And then we just will go with another layer here. Ooh, it's very wet. So I can see that that was a bit too much water on my brush. So this is the beauty of watercolor. I can just dab right here and fix it, no problem. Because my brush was a little bit too wet. So I'll just start down here at the bottom. There we go. And you can just see it's a nice dark mountain. And it was a very easy fix for that one spot. As soon as it started rippling up, I knew I was in trouble. You just grab a little paper towel, and then I'm gonna go over this black mountain real quick with a little bit of the purple I have left over, just so it has that little bit of a hue that I want. And I'm gonna clean this line up a little bit. There we go. Great, good, it's looking awesome. All right, so I need a little bit more depth in my sky. It's still very purple, but I'm gonna make a little bit of a blue. A little bit of black. And then we'll get that purple in there, just one stroke of purple. And I really just want to have kind of a smoky color for this very top part. So it still has the colors that we need to stick with to have some continuity. And then we want to make sure we don't have any big lines. We don't want a straight across horizon here in the sky. We don't want to have just a straight line straight across here. We really want to look like the sun's going down. And that's why we have some lightness at the bottom. Good, beautiful. So that's coming along really nicely. If you wanted to do some little trees on the edge, you can certainly do that. I can show you how we can do that. What you're gonna wanna do is you're just gonna wanna use the black. That's it. And you only wanna do it where it's very dry so that it doesn't end up leaking all over the place. It's still too wet, so we'll give it just a moment. And we can just grab some just black paint. And you can just do our little lines of our trees that we've done before. And we're just adding in a little bit of forest back here. So we're gonna start with our trunks. And you can go high and low. And then you can just kind of have them fade off into the distance. So it just looks like a little outcropping of trees. And then we can start coming in here and giving them a little bit. So all I'm doing is just taking this very fine tip here, and I'm just kind of going up and down the sides of the trees. Because this is just in the dark, you're just doing basically kind of like a shadow of a tree in the background. This does not need to be perfect. You want to have some light coming in between. On these little guys in the back, these are just kind of ideas of trees back here. And then we have just a tiny little forest. And then I can take my black here and just do a bit of a line, and then just fill in between the line and the bottoms of the trees with a little bit of underbrush. So I'm just tapping. It's not perfect. It doesn't need to be, but it just gives your eye somewhere to look in your picture. So it's really lovely. And as it dries, you can go back in and add some more detail, or you can leave it very cloudy and just ideas of trees in here. And it really comes out pretty cool. So there's our little forest. And I'm just gonna clean my brush. And then I'd like to go in one more little time. Grab a little bit of black, and I just wanna go right here at the top with a little black and purple right here at the top and pull it down. Just get it really dark up there. Balance out those mountains. So we're just gonna bring the color down so that it washes out. There we go. Nice. Perfect. Yeah, that looks great. So I kind of made this like, in my head, this was kind of a winter night. And one of the things that makes it really cool is if you have some white acrylic paint, you can put some of that here in this little side guy. And I can take a toothbrush that I'm gonna wet, and then I'm gonna dab it off so it doesn't just turn into water. And as soon as my watercolor is dry, I can start spraying some stars on there. So this is why I always encourage you to have some paper down, or to make sure you're doing this on a piece of cardboard or on a counter that you can very easily clean when you're done. But we're almost dry. I'm gonna just blend in this bit right here. There we go. Saw a little spot there. It's driving me crazy. Okay, nice. It's really beautiful. Lovely little scene. While I wait for the top, I'll just do a couple more details on my trees. Here we go. Lovely. Cool. All right. Okay, so now I've got my damp brush, and this is just a toothbrush. If you have an old one, that's great. If you just have a dry paintbrush, you can use that. And then I'm just gonna pick up a little bit of this white, and I'm gonna dab it all over so that it's all over it. There we go, especially right here on the top. And the cool thing about this is you cannot plan this out. Wherever these little sprinkles go, that's where they go. So I'm just gonna pull back on the toothbrush, and I'm gonna spray the stars. There we go. Lovely. Okay, very nice. Now I accidentally hit my mountain, so I'm just gonna grab a little bit of that black and just cover up those silly stars that snuck in there. There we go. Easy peasy. And that is our beautiful winter night sky for our watercolor landscapes number 2. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Have a creative week. Bye, guys.